The film opens in an abandoned coal mine, where little Aiden is playing all alone. Suddenly, he hears a strange sound, which scares him. He runs toward his father Frank's truck. At the same time, Frank is inside the mine with one of his co-workers. The two of them are secretly manufacturing illegal items in a hidden lab there. While they're talking, terrifying noises suddenly echo through the mine tunnels. Panicking, they try to escape, but out of the darkness, a dangerous creature attacks them. The horrifying creature has sharp, pointed claws and large antler-like horns on its head. It brutally attacks and kills both of them. The story then jumps ahead 3 weeks. We are introduced to Julia, a schoolteacher. She appears troubled while standing alone in the school restroom. After a while, she returns to her classroom, where she teaches the children how people pass down knowledge and culture through stories. After class ends, one of the students, Lucas, is bullied by some boys. They place a creepy painted doll with a frightening face in front of him and try to scare him. Even after all this, Lucas stays silent and walks home alone without saying anything. On his way home, Lucas notices a small animal on the road. He picks up a stone, kills it, and then takes the dead animal home with him. When he reaches his house, he stops in front of a door secured with 2 locks. He presses his ear against the door and listens. Hearing complete silence inside, he goes in. Meanwhile, Julia is at her home when a news report plays on the radio, saying that the government plans to reopen some old coal mines. As soon as she hears this news, Julia walks over to an old piano in her house and gets lost in bitter memories from her childhood. A short while later, her brother Paul, who is a local sheriff, comes to visit her. During their conversation, Paul notices that Julia keeps looking at the piano. He asks her if she wants him to have it removed. Julia refuses, and Paul leaves. Elsewhere, Lucas is looking at a family photo in his house. As he stares at it, he suddenly becomes angry and cuts off the head of the creepy doll he had in his bag. At that very moment, he starts hearing footsteps coming from a room inside. Soon after, loud knocking begins on the door, as if someone is trying to get out from inside. The next day at school, Julia asked Lucas to read the story he had written to the class. Nervously, Lucas took out his notebook, which was filled with dark, disturbing drawings. Then he began to read a story about 3 bears who lived together. The largest bear had fallen sick, and because of a lack of food, he had become irritable and angry. Even so, the 3 of them stayed together and supported one another. Lucas's story was so creepy and strange that the entire class went completely silent. After class ended and the students went outside, one of the boys who used to bully Lucas noticed that someone had put dog poop in his bag. When he saw Lucas standing at a distance watching him, he became even more furious. In a fit of rage, he attacked Lucas and tried to force his face into the filth. Lucas was injured in the attack and was taken to the school's medical room. When Julia found out, she rushed there immediately. Seeing Lucas's condition deeply upset her. She took his form, found his home phone number, and tried calling, but no one answered. While leaving school, Julia noticed that Lucas was once again walking alone, just like always. Seeing this worried her, so she decided to quietly follow him. She saw Lucas stop in front of an ice cream shop and sadly watch people eating ice cream through the glass. Just then, Julia approached him and gestured for him to come inside. From that moment, trust slowly began to grow between Julia and Lucas. During their conversation, Julia asked him about his family. Lucas told her that his mother had passed away and that his younger brother wasn't going to school because he was taking care of their sick father. When Julia asked what his father did for a living, Lucas suddenly went quiet. Then he said he had to leave and also told her not to follow him again. On the way, Lucas noticed some birds circling in the sky. When he reached the spot, he found a dead animal lying there. He picked it up and took it home. Meanwhile, Julia decided that she would go to Lucas's house herself to find out the truth. When she arrived, she saw that the door was open. As soon as she peeked inside, she heard strange noises and growling sounds. Terrified, Julia immediately got into her car and drove away. When Julia got home, she pieced together the torn fragments of one of Lucas's drawings. The picture showed a terrified man trapped inside a horrifying creature. Julia was studying the drawing closely when Paul suddenly came home, startling her. Paul saw the drawing and asked Julia what it was. Meanwhile, Lucas cut up some pieces of the dead animal, placed them on a tray, and carried it upstairs. The room was dark, so he used a flashlight. As soon as he set the tray on the floor, Frank suddenly emerged from the darkness. He looked completely feral, like an animal. He lunged at the food and, shouting angrily, told Lucas to get out, then disappeared back into the darkness. After some time, his younger brother Aiden came out. He was calm, but just as filthy and weak-looking. He started eating, but Frank let out a loud growl. Terrified, Lucas ran away. He shut the door from outside and locked it. Back at her house, Julia was playing the piano when memories of her father's past abuse came flooding back. At that moment, Paul suddenly arrived home, snapping her back to reality. Julia then asked Paul about Frank. Paul explained that Frank was a drug addict who had gotten into trouble many times before. After that, Julia showed him the disturbing drawing made by Lucas and said it belonged to Frank's son. Julia then told Paul about her experience at Frank's house. Meanwhile, Lucas was sitting and drawing when his younger brother Aiden said he was hungry. But Lucas stayed silent. He didn't say a word. He just put on his headphones and hugged a doll. The next morning, Lucas set a trap to catch an animal. That's when he sensed someone nearby. A short distance away, he saw a hunter standing beside a burned human corpse. Seeing this, Lucas ran away. Elsewhere at school, Julia searched Lucas's desk. She found some books about methods of trapping animals, along with his drawing notebook. Julia showed the notebook to Principal Ellen and said that Lucas needed help. Ellen replied that she would be meeting Lucas's father soon. Later, Julia saw Paul talking to a hunter. The hunter told him that a dead body had been found. Meanwhile, Lucas went home to talk to his brother, Aiden. He gave Aiden some candies, but as soon as Aiden ate them, he started coughing, and blood began to come out of his eyes and mouth. Seeing this, Frank became restless. Suddenly, a strange warm light started coming out of his body. Lucas was terrified by the sight and immediately backed away. On the other hand, Paul took the body of Frank's former partner to the forensic lab. After examining it, the doctor said that it didn't look like an animal's body, but a human's. Hearing this only made Paul more worried. Around the same time, Principal Ellen arrived at Frank's house. As soon as she went inside, she noticed a very strong, rotten smell in the house. She kept calling out for someone. Suddenly, she heard someone crying from inside. Ellen ran in and saw that Aiden was filthy and covered in blood. She tried to pick him up and help him, but just then Frank attacked her from behind and knocked her to the ground. Ellen tried to run, but Frank caught her and slowly ate her. After that, strange changes began to occur in Frank's body. Horn-like structures started coming out of his mouth, and his face began to split apart. Meanwhile, the police reached a mine to investigate. There, they found several bags of drugs hanging around and some antler-like horns that looked like a deer's. However, the hunter said he had never seen anything like this before. Just then, Paul received news about a missing person, and he left the area with the rest of the police officers. Elsewhere, Lucas was heading home along the railway tracks when a school bully stopped him and started picking a fight. As Lucas was trying to get away, a dangerous horned monster suddenly appeared and attacked the bully. Seeing this, Lucas ran away and went straight home. When he reached home, he saw Ellen's car outside. Inside, he noticed bloodstains on the floor leading toward a broken window. This panicked Lucas. He went back outside, covered Ellen's car with a cloth, and started cleaning the blood from the floor. Meanwhile, Paul asked Julia about Ellen. Julia said she had seen Ellen the day before. Paul told her that Ellen's husband had filed a missing person report. That's when Julia remembered she had asked Ellen to talk to her about Frank and Lucas. Paul and another police officer went to Frank's house. They knocked on the door, but there was no response from inside. After waiting for a while, they decided to leave and return later to investigate. At the school, Paul spoke with a teacher who told him that one of their students was also missing. Paul said it was probably just a coincidence, but Julia didn't like that explanation and angrily walked away. That's when she noticed Lucas, who looked extremely frightened. Julia grew suspicious and went back to Frank's house. There, she saw Ellen's car covered with a cloth. She immediately informed the police. When the police searched Frank's house, they found Ellen's dead body in the attic. They also discovered another burned body, completely charred, as if it had been burned from the inside. Lucas arrived there too, but Julia didn't let him go inside and took him straight to the hospital. At the hospital, after examining him, the doctors said that Lucas was under severe mental stress and showed clear signs of physical and emotional trauma. Hearing this, Julia silently decided that she would adopt Lucas. While sitting in the hospital, Lucas began recalling everything that happened after his father returned from the mine. In a flashback, it is shown that Frank slowly started to change. He locked the children in the attic for their safety and warned them not to open the door no matter what happened. A few days later, Aiden also fell ill, and Frank, who had completely changed by then, took him into the same room. Paul and Julia went back to the hunter. They showed him some items found in the mine and the terrifying drawings made by Lucas. Seeing all this, the hunter became serious and told them an ancient tribal legend. He explained that everything was connected to a monster called the Wendigo, a ghost-like spirit that is always hungry and feeds on human flesh. The hunter said there is only one way to kill it: strike its heart when it is weak and starving. However, he also warned them that the Wendigo never truly dies. It simply finds a new body to live in again. Just then, Paul received news that a dead body had been found on the railway tracks. When he went there to see it, he realized it was the body of the same thug kid. Half of his body had been eaten. Paul still couldn't believe that something supernatural was happening, which made Julia angry. Julia then told Paul to take her to the hospital. At the hospital, she searched for Lucas and brought him back home with her. A police officer arrived at Paul's house. Paul told him that he was just finishing a meeting with the mayor and asked the officer to check the area around the house. Meanwhile, inside the house, Julia was talking to Lucas about his family and his father's death. Lucas calmly said, "My dad isn't dead, and Aiden is with him." Then Lucas showed Julia a drawing of the terrifying creature and said, "It's coming to get me, then it'll take me to my brother." Outside the house, the police officer on duty heard strange noises coming from the warehouse. Suspicious, he immediately radioed Paul. Without wasting any time, Paul got into his car and rushed toward home. Inside, Julia was trying to keep Lucas safe. Outside, the officer went to investigate the warehouse. He saw something moving inside a box. When he got closer, he saw that Aiden was inside. He immediately informed Paul over the radio. But suddenly, from behind, a horrifying monster attacked and ripped through the officer's body, killing him on the spot. When Paul arrived and slowly moved toward the warehouse, he saw his colleague's dead body on the ground. Suddenly, the monster lunged at him as well and threw him far away. Paul was badly injured. The monster attacked again and wounded his arm. Paul gathered his courage, picked up an axe, and struck the creature, but it barely affected it. In the end, the monster hit him hard, and Paul lost consciousness. Julia arrived and helped the injured Paul. She told him that the monster had taken Lucas to the mine and that she was going to save him. Leaving Paul behind, she headed toward the mine. On the way, she called an ambulance, then entered the mine with a flashlight and Paul's gun. In the dark tunnel, Julia moved forward slowly. After some distance, she saw the children. But then she noticed a terrifying monster eating a bear. Frank's skin was still hanging from its face like raw flesh. Terrified by the sight, Julia immediately shot at it. Enraged, the monster attacked her and slammed her to the ground. Julia somehow got back on her feet and, in panic, kept firing without aiming. Suddenly, the monster came up behind her and knocked her down again. Julia then found a flare on the ground. She lit it, causing the monster to retreat for a moment. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Julia grabbed an iron rod nearby and stabbed it forcefully into the monster's chest. But the monster pulled it out and angrily moved toward her. Just then, Lucas came from behind and stabbed the monster in the back with a knife. The monster collapsed to the ground, writhing in pain. Julia immediately picked up the knife and stabbed the monster repeatedly in the chest, ripping out its heart. But the heart was so hot that it burned Julia's hand, and she dropped it to the ground. Suddenly, Aiden's terrifying scream was heard. He was starting to transform, just like his father. Seeing this, Julia picked up the knife and moved toward Aiden. But Lucas stopped her, hoping his brother would recover. Julia explained that he could no longer be saved. She hugged Aiden and stabbed him in the heart, ending his pain. The next day, Julia and Paul sat by the lake, talking about Lucas. Julia said she would stay with Lucas for some time. Paul said, "I know what that boy will become in the future. Would you be able to kill someone you love?" Julia said nothing. She simply picked up Lucas and walked away. As they left, Paul started coughing, making it clear that he too had been infected by the Wendigo curse. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section.